Hey there YouTube, DevilPunk54 back again with Grinds My Gears segment 10. And this Grind My Gears topic is video games then versus video games now. You know what really grinds my gears is video games back then versus video games now. Now back then we had video games that are like this, this, and of course, I'm sure everybody's played this in their teen years, GoldenEye. This game was the shit. How do you go from video games that are like this to video games that are like this? Upside down once again. Like this. Modern Warfare 3, Call of Duty Black Ops, and Black Ops 2, and Ghosts. Some video games back then, well, most video games back then were very fun and entertaining, but sometimes very frustrating. Especially Zelda Majora's Mask. These are the games here that are fun. All Mario games for N64 were fun. So was GoldenEye. Those are the kinds of games that were less frustrating and wouldn't piss people off as much. Nobody from, well, kids nowadays don't know what it's like to play Super Nintendo games, Nintendo 64 games, because back in our generation of teenagers, we knew what it was like to play those sorts of games. We had a blast playing N64 games, especially me as a young kid, like when I was like 10, 11, 12, whatever, growing up, playing N64 games. One of the other games that was really fun to play was Yoshi's Story, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, and Paper Mario. I have Paper Mario, but not Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. Another one was Rampage World Tour, where you play as Lizzie, Ralph, and George. A lizard, I believe a wolf, and giant gorilla. That was really fun to play, just going around smashing buildings, collecting points, eating people, destroying everything in your path. Now, what I can see from video games going from like this to this is because these are first-person shooter games, and there's zombies in them, and well, just these two. But there's shooting, there's violence, there's swearing, and everything like that. Back then, there was barely any violence in these kinds of games, especially Mario games and games that were rated E for everyone or KA, which I never really knew about that rating, which is kids to adults. And there's, I think EO, early child, no, not EO, EC, early childhood, I think. Those would be like learning games on Nintendo 64, which I never really played. And like Mario games had no swearing or violence, just comic violence, comic mischief. James Bond games for N64 had shooting, of course, obviously. I think there was blood. There's no sexual themes in any N64 games, for that fact. From what I can remember, I'm not exactly 100% sure if there's any sexual themes in any N64 games, but I know there's like comic mischief and blood, gore, violence in any Nintendo 64 game. But with SNES games, You didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. No blood or anything. Just comic violence, comic mischief, stuff like that. Because those games are the old games, old school games before N64. And they were a lot of fun to play. Because I have an SNES emulator on my computer, and I've downloaded some games and they're actually pretty fun. Another thing that grinds my gears: instructional trolling videos on YouTube. If you're looking for an instructional video on how to do something, or how to make something, and you're looking on YouTube,